My name is Muriel, and I am 68 years old. On Mother's Day last spring, I stood alone at an abandoned train station, watching my daughter-in-law's car disappear down a dusty road. She had called it a special gift. A day just for the two of us, she said. But there I was, stranded 45 miles from home, with no ride and no explanation. That moment taught me something I will never forget. Sometimes the people who smile the widest are the ones plotting your downfall. Before I share what happened next, I want to know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. And if stories about family betrayal and standing up for yourself speak to your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Trust me, you will want to stay until the end of this one. Because when Priscilla came back a week later with a power of attorney form in her hand, her face turned white as a ghost. She was not expecting who she found sitting in my living room. Let me take you back to where it all began, because you need to understand the life I had before everything changed. I was married to my husband Walter for 40 years. 40 beautiful, imperfect, wonderful years. We met when I was 23 years old at a church picnic in our small town in Ohio. He was a carpenter with sawdust in his hair and the kindest eyes I had ever seen. We got married 6 months later, and we never looked back. Walter and I built our home together, literally. He designed every inch of that house with his own 2 hands. 4 bedrooms, a wraparound porch, and a kitchen with a window that looked out over the garden where I grew tomatoes and sunflowers. We raised our son Derek in that house. We celebrated birthdays and holidays. We weathered storms and arguments and made up with cups of coffee on the porch at sunrise. When Derek was born, I thought my heart would burst from happiness. He was our only child, and we poured everything we had into him. I was an elementary school teacher for 32 years, and I used every skill I learned to make sure Derek grew up kind, hardworking, and honest. Walter taught him how to build things with his hands, how to fix what was broken instead of throwing it away. Derek grew into a fine young man. He went to college, got a degree in computer engineering, and landed a good job at a tech company. I was so proud of him. Then, about 7 years ago, Derek met Priscilla at a company party. She was 34 years old, worked in real estate, and had a smile that could light up a room. At least, that is what I thought at the time. When Derek brought her home to meet us, Priscilla was charming. She complimented my cooking, asked Walter about his woodworking projects, and told me how lucky Derek was to have such wonderful parents. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. They got married a year later in a beautiful ceremony at the Botanical Gardens. I cried happy tears watching my son promise to love and cherish this woman. Walter squeezed my hand and whispered that our boy had done good. 2 years into their marriage, my granddaughter Emma was born. 2 years after that, my grandson Tyler came along. Those children became the light of my life. Every Sunday, Derek and Priscilla would bring them over for dinner. Emma would help me bake cookies while Tyler played with the wooden toys Walter had carved. Life felt complete. Then 3 years ago, Walter got sick. Lung cancer, the doctors said. He had never smoked a day in his life. But sometimes life is not fair. I watched my husband, my partner, my best friend, fade away over 8 months. He passed away, holding my hand in the bedroom we had shared for 4 decades. I thought losing Walter would destroy me. Some days I could barely get out of bed, but I forced myself to keep going because I knew he would have wanted me to. I had Derek. I had my grandchildren. I had our home filled with memories of the man I loved. After Walter died, Priscilla started to change. Or maybe she had always been this way, and I just had not noticed before. At first, it was small things, comments that seemed innocent but left a sting. "You know this house is awfully big for just one person," she said one evening, looking around my living room. "Have you ever thought about moving somewhere smaller? There are some lovely assisted living facilities nearby." I told her I was perfectly fine where I was. I was 65 years old at the time, healthy, still driving my own car, still teaching Sunday school at church. I did not need anyone to take care of me. Priscilla smiled and said she was just thinking about my safety. But the comments kept coming. Every visit she would find something new to worry about. "Mom, did you leave the stove on? I thought I smelled gas. Mom, you seem tired. Are you sleeping okay, Mom? You told me that story last week." Do you remember? I started to feel like I was being watched, examined, tested. But I told myself I was being paranoid. Priscilla was family. She was just concerned about me. Then something happened that made me realize this was more than concern. One afternoon, I could not find my house keys. I always kept them on the hook by the front door, but they were gone. I searched everywhere, getting more and more frustrated. Finally, I found them in the refrigerator next to the milk. I knew I had not put them there. I knew it. But when Priscilla came over that evening and I mentioned it, she gave Derek a look, a knowing, worried look. "Mom is losing her keys now," she said quietly, as if I was not standing right there. "Derek, we need to talk about this." That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones. But what could I do? Who would believe me? After the incident with the keys, strange things started happening more frequently, and I began to pay closer attention. One morning, I woke up, and my reading glasses were not on my nightstand, where I always left them. I found them in the bathroom cabinet, behind the towels. A week later, my medication bottles were rearranged in the kitchen. I had a system, a specific order I kept them in, and someone had changed it. Every time Priscilla visited, something would be different afterward. A photograph moved to a different shelf. A book I was reading placed back on the wrong spot on the bookcase. My car keys appearing in my coat pocket when I always hung them on the hook. I started to feel like I was going crazy. Maybe I was losing my mind. Maybe Priscilla was right. Then came the apple pie incident. Priscilla invited me over for dinner one Saturday evening. I was surprised by the invitation because she had not been particularly warm lately, but I was grateful. I missed my son and grandchildren. I spent all afternoon baking my famous apple pie, Walter's favorite. I used fresh apples from the farmer's market, made the crust from scratch, and let it cool to perfection. It was beautiful. When I arrived at their house, Priscilla greeted me with a big smile and took the pie box from my hands. "Thank you so much, Mom. This looks wonderful." I felt hopeful. Maybe I had been imagining things. Maybe Priscilla really did care about me. After dinner, Derek walked me to my car. On my way out, I passed by the kitchen and saw something that made my blood run cold. Priscilla was on the phone, her back to me, holding something over the trash can. I do not know what happened, she was saying. She brought this pie, but it is completely burnt. I mean, it is inedible. This is what I have been telling you, Derek. She cannot even bake anymore. She dropped my pie into the garbage and replaced it with something from a bakery box. A pie that was deliberately burnt, blackened beyond recognition. I stood there frozen. My pie had been perfect, golden brown, smelling like cinnamon and love. And she had thrown it away to make me look incompetent. That was the moment I knew. This was not my imagination. This was a plan. I went home that night and sat in the dark for a long time thinking. Then I picked up the phone and called my neighbor, Gloria. Gloria and her husband Harold had lived next door to us for over 20 years. We had raised our children together, celebrated holidays together, grieved together when Walter died. If anyone would believe me, it was Gloria. I told her everything: the moved objects, the missing keys, the pie. Gloria listened without interrupting. When I finished, there was a long pause. "Muriel," she said slowly, "what you are describing sounds like elder abuse. Harold saw cases like this when he was on the force. Someone is trying to make you look incompetent so they can take control of your affairs." Harold had been a police officer for 30 years. He knew what he was talking about. "What do I do?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Document everything," Gloria said. "Write down every incident with dates and times. And if you can get proof." That night, I started a journal. I wrote down every strange occurrence I could remember, going back months. And the next day, I went to the electronics store and bought a small camera. Harold helped me hide it in my living room, disguised as a decorative item on my bookshelf. I was going to catch Priscilla in the act. Over the next few weeks, I kept quiet and watched. I acted normal around Priscilla, pretending I had not noticed anything, and my camera recorded everything. I caught her on video, moving my glasses to strange places. I recorded her going through my desk drawers. And one afternoon, I captured something that made my stomach turn. Priscilla was on the phone in my living room, thinking she was alone. I had told her I was taking a nap. "Everything is going according to plan," she said into her phone. "Once I get her to sign the power of attorney, we will have access to everything. The house alone is worth $450,000. And she has got a healthy retirement account too. Derek does not suspect a thing." I sat in my bedroom watching the recording on my phone, tears streaming down my face. My own daughter-in-law was plotting to steal everything my husband and I had built, and she was using my son to do it. I wanted to scream. I wanted to confront her right then and there. But I knew I needed to be smart. I needed more evidence, and I needed to wait for the right moment. 1 month before Mother's Day, I heard Priscilla talking to Derek in their kitchen. I had stopped by to drop off birthday presents for Emma, and they did not know I was listening from the hallway. I have been researching. Power of attorney, Priscilla said. If your mom's condition keeps declining, we need to be prepared. Someone needs to be able to make decisions for her, handle her finances, keep her safe. Derek sounded hesitant. I do not know, Priscilla. Mom seems okay to me. That is because you do not see her every day, like I do, Priscilla said. Trust me, Derek. This is for her own good. I slipped out of their house before they saw me, my heart pounding. Priscilla was making her move. I needed to be ready. 1 week before Mother's Day, my phone rang. It was Priscilla, and her voice was sweeter than I had heard in months. Mom, she said, I want to do something special for you this year. Just the two of us. A girl's day out. I gripped the phone tighter, forcing myself to stay calm. That sounds lovely, I said. What did you have in mind? There is this beautiful spa out in the countryside, she continued. Relaxing treatments, beautiful scenery. I will pick you up Sunday morning. Derek is traveling for work, so it will be just us. I knew this was a trap. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me to say no. But I also knew that if I wanted to expose Priscilla, I needed to see how far she was willing to go. I would like that very much, I said. When Sunday morning arrived, I got dressed carefully. I put my phone in my purse, fully charged. I told Gloria where I was going and asked her to check on me if she did not hear from me by evening. Priscilla arrived at 9 o'clock sharp, all smiles and cheerful chatter. She helped me into her car and drove away from my house, heading out of the city. At first, the drive was pleasant. Priscilla talked about the children, about her work, about a new restaurant she wanted to try. I nodded and smiled, playing along. But as we drove further from town, I noticed the roads getting narrower, the houses fewer and farther between. We were heading into rural farmland miles from anywhere. Where is this spa exactly? I asked, keeping my voice light. Oh, it is a hidden gem, Priscilla said. Very exclusive. You will love it. After about an hour, she turned onto a small road and pulled up to a tiny train station. The building was old and weathered, the platform empty. There was no sign of a spa anywhere. We need to make a quick stop, Priscilla said. Can you wait here for just a minute? I need to run to that little store down the road and grab some water. I looked around. There was no store in sight. Sure, I said, getting out of the car. I stood on the platform watching Priscilla's car. She pulled away slowly, then faster. I waited for her to turn around to come back. She never did. I watched her taillights disappear down the road, and I stood there alone in the silence. Just me and the empty tracks, and the dust settling in the afternoon sun. For a moment, I felt panic rising in my chest. I was 68 years old, stranded in the middle of nowhere, abandoned by the woman my son had married. Then I took a deep breath and remembered something Walter used to say whenever I got overwhelmed. Panic never fixed anything, Muriel. Think first, act second. So I thought. I tried calling Priscilla. No answer. I tried 3 more times. Nothing. I walked into the small station building and found a man sitting behind a dusty counter. His name tag said, Frank. "Excuse me," I said. "Can you tell me where I am?" Frank looked up with tired but kind eyes. "Millbrook Station," he said, "though we do not get many visitors." "You okay, Mom?" I explained that I needed to get back to the city, about 45 miles away. Frank told me there was one train in the evening, about 4 hours from now. He offered me a seat in his small office, a cup of coffee, and a phone charger when my battery started dying. I called Gloria. She picked up on the first ring. "Muriel, is everything okay?" When I told her what happened, there was a long silence. Then Gloria's voice came back, hard as steel. "Harold and I are coming to get you. Do not move." 3 hours later, Gloria and Harold's car pulled up to the station. I had never been so happy to see anyone in my life. On the drive home, I sat in the back seat staring out the window. I had not cried. I was not going to give Priscilla that satisfaction. Harold spoke up from the driver's seat. "She wanted you to panic, get lost, make a scene. Then she could tell Derek that you could not handle a simple trip. But you did not panic," Gloria added, reaching back to squeeze my hand. "You stayed calm. You figured it out. You proved her wrong." I nodded slowly. "Yes, I did. And now," I said, my voice steady, "I am going to prove a lot more." That night, I sat alone in my living room for a long time. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I missed Walter's presence, his steady breathing from the chair next to mine, his hand reaching over to hold mine during the evening news. I thought about calling Derek immediately, telling him everything, but I knew how that would go. Priscilla had spent months poisoning his mind against me. She had planted seeds of doubt about my mental state. If I called him now hysterical and accusatory, I would only prove her right. No, I needed to be strategic. I needed to let Priscilla walk into her own trap. The next morning, I retrieved the USB drive where I had saved all the camera footage. I watched every video again, taking notes. Dates, times, actions. I pulled out my journal and added the train station incident, documenting every detail I could remember. Then I called Harold and asked for a favor. "You said you knew people," I told him, "lawyers who handle cases like this." Harold gave me the name of Linda Hartwell, an attorney who specialized in elder law and protecting senior citizens from abuse and exploitation. I called her office that afternoon and made an appointment for the following day. Linda Hartwell's office was in a modest building downtown. She was a woman in her 50s, with sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and a no-nonsense demeanor. I liked her immediately. I sat across from her desk and told her everything. From the beginning, the moved objects, the staged pie incident, the whispered phone calls, the train station abandonment. I showed her the videos, the journal entries, the documentation I had gathered over months. Linda watched and listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and let out a long breath. "Mrs. Muriel," she said, "what you have described is textbook elder abuse. Specifically, your daughter-in-law appears to be engaging in what we call undue influence and potential financial exploitation. The goal is clearly to have you declared incompetent so she can gain control of your assets. What can we do?" I asked. Linda outlined the options. We could file a report with Adult Protective Services. We could pursue criminal charges for elder abuse. We could also prepare legal documents to protect my assets and ensure that no one could gain control without my explicit verified consent. "But here is what I recommend," Linda said. "If you want to protect your relationship with your son, we need him to see the truth with his own eyes. Priscilla has manipulated him for years. Telling him is not enough. He needs to witness it." I nodded slowly. "She is going to come back with the power of attorney papers," I said. "I am sure of it. She probably thinks the train station incident rattled me enough that I will sign anything." "Then we let her come," Linda said, "and we will be ready." Over the next few days, I prepared. Linda drew up new legal documents, including a will that protected my assets for Derek and my grandchildren, with specific provisions that prevented Priscilla from accessing anything directly. Gloria and Harold helped me test the camera equipment to make sure it was working perfectly. Then I called Derek. "Sweetheart," I said, trying to keep my voice casual, "I was hoping you could come by this Sunday, just to visit. It has been a while since we had time, just the two of us." Derek sounded surprised but pleased. "Of course, Mom. Priscilla mentioned she wanted to stop by too, if that is okay." Perfect, I thought. "Of course," I said. "The more the merrier." I hung up and looked at Gloria, who was sitting across from me at my kitchen table. "It is happening Sunday," I said. Gloria reached over and squeezed my hand. "We will be right next door if you need us. You are not alone in this, Muriel." I was not alone. And for the first time in months, I felt ready. Sunday morning arrived with clear skies and a gentle breeze. I woke up early and took my time getting ready. I chose a nice blue dress, the one Walter always said brought out my eyes. I did my hair, put on a little makeup, and made sure I looked like exactly what I was. A sharp, capable, perfectly competent woman of 68 years. Linda Hartwell arrived at 11 o'clock. I settled her in Walter's old study, just off the living room, where she could hear everything but remain out of sight. Gloria and Harold were in their house phones, ready, prepared to come over at a moment's notice if things escalated. I set up my laptop on the coffee table with the video files queued and ready. Then I sat down in my armchair, the one facing the front door, and I waited. Derek arrived first at noon. He came through the door with that familiar smile, the one he had inherited from his father, and wrapped me in a warm hug. "Hi, Mom," he said. "You look great." "Thank you, sweetheart. I made some lemonade if you want some." We sat in the living room, making small talk while we waited. Derek told me about his work about Emma's dance recital, about Tyler's obsession with dinosaurs. For a few minutes, it almost felt normal, like the old days before everything changed. Then the front door opened and Priscilla walked in. She was dressed impeccably, as always, with her hair perfectly styled and a leather briefcase in her hand. Her smile was wide, her eyes calculating. "Hello, Mom," she said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. "You are looking well." I smiled back. "Thank you, Priscilla. Please have a seat." She sat down on the couch next to Derek and placed her briefcase on the coffee table. I noticed her glance at the laptop, but she did not comment on it. For a few minutes, we made polite conversation. Then Priscilla cleared her throat and got down to business. "Mom," she said, reaching into her briefcase, "I have been thinking a lot about your future, your well-being. I know the past few weeks have been difficult, with the confusion and the getting lost." "I did not get lost," I said, calmly. "You left me at an abandoned train station." Derek looked confused. "What? Priscilla, you said Mom got confused during your spa trip." "She did get confused," Priscilla said quickly. "She wandered off and could not remember where she was. I had to call the station to make sure someone found her." "That is not what happened," I said. Priscilla ignored me and pulled out a document from her briefcase. "Anyway, that is why I prepared this. It is a power of attorney form. It would allow Derek and me to help manage your affairs, your finances, your medical decisions, just in case you ever cannot handle them yourself." She slid the paper across the table toward me along with a pen. "It is just a precaution," she said, "for your protection." I looked at the document. Then I looked at Priscilla. Then I smiled. "Before I sign anything," I said, "there is someone I would like you to meet." I called toward the study. "Linda, could you come in, please?" The door opened and Linda Hartwell walked into the living room. Priscilla's face went white. "This is my attorney," I said. "Linda Hartwell. She specializes in elder law." Derek stood up, looking between me and Linda and Priscilla with growing confusion. "Mom, what is going on?" "Sit down, sweetheart," I said gently. "There is something you need to see." I turned the laptop toward them and pressed play. The first video showed Priscilla in my living room, going through my desk drawers, moving my reading glasses to the bathroom. The second showed her rearranging my medication. The third, and most damning, showed her on the phone. "Once I get her to sign the power of attorney, we will have access to everything," her recorded voice said. "The house alone is worth $450,000. Derek does not suspect a thing." The room was completely silent. Derek stared at the screen, his face shifting from confusion to disbelief to something that looked like his heart breaking. Priscilla stood up abruptly. "Those videos are fake. She manipulated them somehow. This is exactly what I was talking about, Derek. She is paranoid and delusional." "Really?" Linda said coolly. "Because I have had these videos analyzed by a forensic expert. They are authentic, and what they show is clear evidence of elder abuse and attempted financial exploitation." Derek turned to his wife. His voice was barely above a whisper. "Did you leave my mother at that train station?" Priscilla's mouth opened and closed. "I was just trying to—" "Did you leave her there?" Priscilla did not answer. She did not have to. Her silence said everything. Derek looked at me. his eyes filled with tears. "Mom," he said, "I am so sorry. I did not know." I stood up and walked over to my son. I took his hands in mine. "I know you did not," I said. "She fooled both of us for a long time. But now, you know the truth." Derek pulled me into a hug, holding on tight, like he used to when he was a little boy who had woken up from a nightmare. Over his shoulder, I saw Priscilla standing alone by the door, her briefcase forgotten on the table. Her perfectly constructed facade had finally crumbled, and for the first time in months, I could breathe. The days after that Sunday were difficult, but they were also necessary. Derek went home with Priscilla that night, but things between them were never the same. He told me later that they barely spoke on the drive home. He slept in the guest room. The next morning, he took Emma and Tyler to school and then went straight to a divorce attorney. I did not push him. I did not tell him what to do. He needed to make his own decisions about his marriage. But I could see the pain in his eyes, the betrayal he felt. Priscilla had not just tried to manipulate me. She had manipulated him, to used him as a pawn in her scheme. Linda Hartwell filed a report with Adult Protective Services documenting Priscilla's behavior. The evidence was overwhelming. The videos, my journal, the testimony from Frank at the train station, who remembered a well-dressed woman dropping off an elderly lady and never coming back. Priscilla was investigated. She could have faced criminal charges, but in the end, I chose not to press them. Not for her sake, for Emma and Tyler. Those children had already lost so much. They did not need to see their mother go to jail. Instead, we reached a legal agreement. Priscilla was required to attend counseling for manipulative behavior. She was prohibited from being alone with me without Derek present. And she signed documents acknowledging that she had no claim to any of my assets ever. Derek and Priscilla officially separated 3 months later. The divorce process was long and painful, but Derek got joint custody of the children. Emma and Tyler split their time between their parents, but they spent almost every other weekend at my house. Those weekends became my favorite part of the week. Emma, who was now 6, loved to help me in the kitchen. I taught her how to make Walter's favorite apple pie, the real one with fresh apples and homemade crust. She would stand on a little stool next to me, her small hands covered in flour, giggling as we rolled out the dough. Tyler, 4 years old and full of energy, was obsessed with the wooden animals Walter had carved decades ago. He would line them up on the living room floor and make up elaborate stories about their adventures. Watching my grandchildren play in the same house where I had raised their father using the same toys, sitting in the same kitchen, I felt something I thought I had lost forever. Joy. One Sunday afternoon, Derek came over early to help me fix a leaky faucet. Afterward, we sat on the back porch together, watching Emma and Tyler chase fireflies in the yard. Mom, Derek said quietly, "I need to apologize to you. Again." "You do not need to keep apologizing," I told him. "Yes, I do." He stared at his hands. "I should have seen what was happening. I should have believed you." But Priscilla was so convincing and I was so busy with work, and I trusted her. I reached over and took his hand. Derek, I said, you are my son, my only child. I have loved you since the moment you took your first breath. Nothing will ever change that. Not Priscilla, not anything. He looked at me with Walter's eyes, and I saw a tear slide down his cheek. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetheart. We sat there together as the sun went down, my hand in his, watching the children play. And for the first time since Walter died, I did not feel alone. It has been 6 months since that Sunday when everything changed. I still live in my house, the house Walter built with his own hands, the house where I raised my son and baked 1,000 apple pies and fell asleep every night next to the love of my life. I am not going anywhere. Gloria and Harold still live next door. We have dinner together every Thursday night, taking turns hosting. Harold teaches Tyler how to play checkers. Gloria and Emma have started a little book club, reading chapter books together and discussing them like they are at a fancy literary salon. I joined a book club myself at the local library. Once a week, I gather with a group of other women, most of us over 60, and we talk about stories and life and everything in between. Last month, I started writing my own story, a memoir of my life with Walter. It is not for publication, just for me. And maybe, someday, for Emma and Tyler, so they can know the grandfather they never got to meet. Some people ask me if I hate Priscilla, if I spend my days angry at her for what she tried to do. The answer is no. I do not have room in my heart for hatred. It is too heavy. Carrying anger toward Priscilla would only hurt me, not her. She has to live with the consequences of her choices. She lost her marriage. She damaged her relationship with her children. She will spend the rest of her life knowing that her scheme failed. That is punishment enough. What I learned from this experience is something I want to share with anyone who is listening. If you are older like me and you feel like someone is trying to make you doubt yourself, trust your instincts. You are not crazy. You are not losing your mind. Someone may be trying to take advantage of you, and you have every right to protect yourself. Document everything. Tell someone you trust. Find a lawyer who specializes in protecting seniors. You have rights, and there are people who will help you defend them. Do not be afraid to stand up for yourself, no matter how old you are. I am 68 years old. I am a widow. I am a mother and a grandmother. I have lived through joy and heartbreak, love and loss, betrayal and redemption. And I am still standing. Sometimes I sit on the porch in the evening, in the chair next to where Walter used to sit. I watch the sunset, paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, and I think about how far I have come. From a young bride building a house with the man she loved, to a woman facing down the person who tried to take everything from her. Life is not always kind. People are not always good. But if there is one thing I have learned in 68 years, it is this. You are stronger than you think. You are braver than you feel. and you deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, no matter what anyone else tries to tell you. If my story has touched your heart today, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had someone in your life try to make you doubt yourself? Have you ever had to stand up for your own worth? Share your story in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. And if this story resonated with you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Sharing this video might help someone else who is going through something similar. You never know whose life you might change just by clicking that share button. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. It means more than you know. Whatever you are facing in your own life, I want you to remember one thing. The people who try to make you feel small are usually afraid of how powerful you truly are. So stand tall, trust yourself, and never let anyone convince you that you are less than you are. Take care of yourselves, my friends, and take care of each other. Until next time.